Good evening, everyone. Without wasting our time, we'll have to proceed to the lecture of today. And this lecture is a STM 417, and it is a principle of bioethics. This is another professional course that I want to proudly tell you that it is only in this school that you can offer this kind of a course, just like what you have in bioinformatics as well. It's one of the high reigning courses in medical science. Bioethics is a professional course in medicine. And if you carry out any research or you want to do any project at all, as a student of biology, be it microbiology, um, what have you, environmental biology, biochemistry, or whatever, if you don't know how to, if you don't have any knowledge of bioethics, you just know that your results, no matter how beautiful your research could be, if you do not follow the principle of bioethics in your research, it is not going to be acceptable by anybody. And that's one of the reasons why you have to take it so serious, because you actually need this knowledge in your research, not only here, also in the future. That is bioethics. Without wasting our time, let's continue. So, introduction to bioethics. What do we mean by bioethics? Bio from biology and ethics from ethical principles. So, that is the best international standard of carrying out biological sciences or biological related issues. So, bioethics is the study of ethical issues arising from advances in biology, medicine, and biotechnology. So, what we are saying in essence is just that when we say ethical issues, ethical principles, lay down issues, that is the acceptable standard, standardized issues arising from biology, any aspect of biology, medicine, and biotechnology. I've told you that you cannot carry out any research. Are you talking of drug development? Will you be thinking of vaccine development? Will you be what area carrying out research on laboratory animals, wanting to test the efficacy of certain substance, drugs, industries, pharmaceutical industry, food, and chemicals? If you are not following laid down ethical principles, what you are doing is going to be what? Is going to be you'll be regarded as a quack, as a quack. It's just like a medical doctor that doesn't have a certificate for his job. So that is that. So bioethics deals with how humans should behave in response to advancement in biology and medicine. When you pick biology only, when you just pick biology alone, you will see a lot of developments. You will see a lot of like cloning, like biotechnology, genetic engineering, uh, grafting, organ transplant, immunology. All these ones are certain areas of biology that you have a lot of advancement over. We have a lot of them, a lot of development. The way we practice biology during the time of Watson and Crick's is quite different from the same way we practice biology now, and it's still going to be different. So that's why we are saying that biology is nothing but dealing with humans, how humans should behave in response. Now, this is the knowledge of artificial intelligence. Knowledge of artificial intelligence. Sometimes ago, when computer was invented, some people thought uh, computer was going to take over all their jobs. And how did they actually interact and what has been their responses? So what I'm saying in essence is that there will always be development. There will always be civilization. There will be always discoveries of new science, new biological equipment, new of this. So how can you, as human, how can you relate with it? Now let me, okay, we are going to get to how bioethics actually started as a course. So the key areas in bioethics, which I want you to know, is talk about medical ethics. We talk about environmental ethics. So you see, as a environmental biologist, what you do is going to be a branch of bioethics, which is environmental ethics. Research ethics too. If you want to carry out research in an acceptable way, it must be carried out in acceptable way. It must be carried out in a way that is going to be acceptable by all. Don't forget Abalaka sometimes ago, who claimed um, to have developed a drug that he can use in treating HIV. Yes, some people, some patients were given to him. He administered some people, and some of them claim that they have been cured of that ailment, which is HIV. But they now ask him to come and explain in a scientific way, explain the procedure that he has followed. But because he did not follow what is called the lay down standard and lay down procedure, whatever could be his output was rubbish because he could not actually profile, he could not demonstrate it, he could not standardize it. So that's why we are saying that in biology, there are standard ways of doing things. There are ethical ways of doing things. So, for example, now if you want to collect blood samples, if you want to collect clinical samples, there are certain procedures that you must follow before you even think of considering or before you think of carrying out research in certain topics. You must consider a lot of things. So three key areas: medical ethics, environmental ethics, as well as research ethics. So there are some people that by the time they are carrying out their own research, they will not bother about if the environment is going to be affected or not. So what they will just do is that they want to proceed on their own research. So any research that is going to have negative effect on another person or another organism, if be it environment, is not going to be ethical procedures must be followed. So definition of bioethics is a branch of ethics. That so what do we mean by ethics? If you check the dictionary meaning of ethics, ethics is nothing but standards, laid down principles, laid down procedures, acceptable ways of carrying out certain assignment or certain procedure. So it's a branch of ethics that deal with the implication of biological and medical procedures and society, and technologies on society, the individual, and the environment. So, as a researcher, if you want to carry out any research, you must tell us what is going to be. You must think. As soon as you are thinking of the topic, you must also think what is going to be the impact on the society, what's going to be the impact of your research on an individual, and what's going to be the impact on the environment. So if all these are weighed, if the disadvantages overweigh the advantages, you should know that under normal circumstance, you should not proceed on that kind of research. And key focus, part of the key focus of this topic of this course is going to be the moral question and concern arising in scientific and medical advancement. For example, genetic modification, cloning, and organ donation. There are some people that will just in as an hospital, you want to truly, you have you have more blood that you need to donate, but you have to follow certain procedures in donating that blood. Organ transplants, you can see that you can, yes, I'm very sure you can remember former Nigerian president, I mean Senate vice president, that was jailed abroad because of he wanted to harvest the organ of an housewife without the necessary ethical procedures. So, for example, now you want somebody to donate blood for you, and you did not seek the permission. You did not actually think about the negative and the positive aspects. When the positive aspect now overweigh the negative, that is when you cannot consider. So, because somebody is a servant or is an house help, does not mean that you should now take uh, anything from him forcefully without due consent. So, for example, if you want to carry out research in children, even if they cannot, anyone that is younger, that is not up to 18, is regarded as a minor. So all these are part of the ethical issues of bioethical this. So what are the scope of bioethics? We have said it. Uh, Medical ethics, these are ethical dilemmas in medicine, such as euthanasia, end of life care, and patient confidentiality. So you have to protect the fact that the medical history of another person has not in any way given you the go ahead to go and disclose it to another person. That is what is called confidentiality. End of life care, no matter what, there are some people that already they are being diagnosed with terminal diseases. So you will not say that because the person will eventually die, and you will now kill the person or you murder the person before the person will eventually die. There are some people that they gave birth to stillbirth, they gave birth to a moron, a moron, and at the end of the day, no matter how impaired that your child could be, you cannot just go and bury the child anyhow like that. If you are caught, that means you go to jail. So all these parts are part of the medical ethics. Then environmental ethics concern about biological research and medical advancement. How do they impact on the environment? There are some environment that are already polluted. So we have to think about it. Then research ethics, like ethical conduct of research, particularly anything that has to do with medical and scientific experiment. You have to. So how did bioethics actually started? Now I want to cast your mind back to the days of Edward Jenner, who is regarded as the father of fascination. So who actually injected his own 5-year-old son with a live virus. So at that time, it was unethical. It was unethical. Thank God the child recovered. The child survived. And because the child survived, he had actually laid down the principle of fascination and variolation. He laid it down for us, but it did not follow the ethical principle. It was against the principle of bioethics. So early foundation, bioethics has roots in ancient philosophy. One of what thing you need to do, philosophy of life, that what you cannot take, you must not do it to others. You treat others as you want others to treat you. So we can now say that bioethics, the what we call bioethics or what we call ethics or ethical principle actually started from the law of conscience. Because you remember in those days of um, Abel, Cain and Abel. So nobody told Abel that he has killed his brother. He was the one that was so restless. So because he has actually done to his own brother what he himself cannot take. So this part of the ancient philosophy. So this is what we are saying, that bioethics has its own roots in ancient philosophy. What you cannot take, don't give it to others. The food you cannot eat, don't give it to others. And the others we are talking about is not only somebody who is of your blood or somebody who is human. The food you cannot eat under normal circumstance, don't give it to your dog. Don't give it to your animals. Don't give it to the environment. There are some of us that whenever there is rain, the next thing is that you'll be packing all refuse from your own house, and you start throwing it into the river. So and down the stream, some people will eventually is going to pollute their own water. It is unfair. It is against bioethics principle. So, and that is why we said bioethics has its own roots in ancient philosophy. Then the modern philosophy, the modern bioethics we are talking about actually started in 20th century due to technological advancement. So as a result, as we are having advancement in technology and equipment. So that was the foundation of the modern bioethics. And history of bioethics cannot be completed without what is called the Nuremberg trials of 1947, which established was the first time that they established ethical guidelines for research on human subjects. That was when they laid down, that was the conference, they laid down the rules that must be followed if you want to collect any sample from human, the ethical principles that you must follow. Then 1964, International Guideline for Medical Research, so Declaration of Helsinki, and the Thursday Civilist Study of 1932 to 1972 was another example of unethical research that was carried out. So we are going to see these later on details of this. So evolution of bioethics, it actually started in post-World War II, which actually lead to advances in organ transplants, human cloning, and gene editing, which raised moral questions. So certain key figures that we can never forget includes Dr. Andre Elegas, Beauchamp, and Childress of 1979. So all these are very useful in bioethics. So then bioethics today, which deals with issues like stem cell research, cloning, and genetic engineering. So these are part of the people, how bioethics actually evolved from the ancient philosophy that has to do with you treat others as you wish to be treated. So you don't take an insult that you don't insult somebody what you cannot actually take. So, importance of bioethics in scientific research. Bioethics ensure that scientific progress does not come at the cost of human dignity, safety, or environmental stability. And key areas of concern that your research must address include informed consent, integrity of your research, protection of vulnerable groups. So informed consent, no matter what, you must seek the consent of your subject. Don't say, okay, for example, now if you are working with prisoners, you must seek their consent. If you are working with um, people that are impaired in terms of brain impairment, so you seek their consent. So bioethics ensure that scientific does not come the court. So anything that is going to affect your dignity or the dignity of another person, that is going to reduce the dignity of another person, that is going to affect the safety of life or environmental concern of that person, all these are part of why bioethics is very, very important in scientific research. So you have to think of informed consent, integrity of your research. So the integrity of your research will depend on how you are able to maintain ethical standard. So, and there are certain groups that are called vulnerable groups like the children and pregnant mothers. So all these you must take them into consideration. You won't say because they are already poor, you just go and take their sample anyhow if you are caught. So then key ethical principles in bioethics. So number one, autonomy. Everybody has the right to act what? Autonomously. The right of an individual to make decision about their own life. So you have to give it to them. Everybody. And nobody has the right to take the life of another person. So autonomy, the right of individuals to make decision about their own life. You are going to come across all this in the whole of this course. Then you will also come across what is called beneficence. This is the obligation to do good and promote the well-being of others. So beneficence, anything that is not going to promote the good existence of another person, you should not even think of it. And another one is a non-maleficence, the duty to do no harm, the duty that you do no harm to the environment, do no harm to the animal, domestic animal, do no harm to any other individual. So, and all these are part of the principle that you do to others as you wish to be treated. Justice, the principle of fairness in everything you are doing at all. If you are relating with others, you relate with fairness. Principle of fairness. Ensuring equal distribution of benefits and burdens in research and this. Ethical dilemmas in bioethics. So arising from ethical dilemmas when there are conflicting moral principles. For example, the common dilemmas in research, in bioethics, these are part of the dilemmas that will continue or controversy that will continue to witness. So the first one is euthanasia. Number one, should a terminally ill person have the right to end their own life? Once somebody is diagnosed of terminal disease, they cannot take their own life unless death come, and that's one of the punishment. Uh, they are anybody that commits suicide is going to um, serve with God. So euthanasia. So should a terminally ill patient have the right to end? So when the person is already diagnosed with that kind of illness, so and the next thing is to go and commit suicide. No. So it's part of the dilemmas in bioethics. Then another one is a genetic modification. Should we alter the human genome? You know, this is the era of genomic era. whereby you have a lot of access to a lot of information about human being, about different organisms. So should you can you alter, can you affect uh, genetically the human's genome? So how do then resource allocation, how do we fairly distribute medical resources? Okay, these are part of this. Then bioethics and medicine. Bioethics play a crucial role in medical practice, especially in ensuring that patient rights are well respected. So and that's why in bioethics and medicine you must seek the informed consent. We call it informed. You will educate them. You have to educate them. You have to tell them the benefits of participating in that research as well as the risk involved. For example, you want to collect blood sample and you are now telling them it is for their own good. No, you have to tell them the risk as well. Part of the risk is that whenever you want to take the risk, you want to take the blood, they have to also endure the needle prick is going to pain them to certain level. So you do not customize. You do not use cosmetological languages. You do not bamboozle them. You have to tell them both the benefit as well as the risk before they will give you their own informed consent. It's not a matter of verbal. No, if you want to collect any research or you want to collect any sample that involve human subject, you have to seek their informed consent in form of written. Those that cannot write, you should ask them to thumbprint. So if you do not document their consent, if anything arises, at the end of the day, you will be held responsible because you did not seek their informed consent. Another one is a patient autonomy. You have to respect a patient right to make decision about their own treatment. So you are the one that will tell them, irrespect, even before you administer any drug on them, you have to tell them, you have to respect their rights in order to be able to make decision about their own treatment. They have the right to refuse to be treated, and they have the right to even consent to being treated. Then confidentiality, protecting the patient personal health information. You don't have to disclose their own information. You don't have health information. So because somebody is HIV positive and you diagnose the person, maybe a couple, and you now go and disclose the results to the partner, it is unethical. So that's the reason why confidentiality is very, very important. Then, with advancements in genetics, bioethics must address concern about the boundaries of human intervention in genetic makeup, gene editing, such as CRISPR. So, gene editing, you know now that it is very possible to edit the DNA of some organism. So should we alter the DNA of living organism, which includes that of human? So it's part of the ethical issues that we have to live with. Then cloning, is it ethical to create genetically identical organism? So for example now, if you know, if you know one organism now, you know, and you go and recreate another organism that is going to perform the same function, and is going to have the same composition as that of that one, is it genetically is it ethically tidy? So then gene therapy, what happens when we use gene therapy to correct genetic disorders in human? Up till now, there are certain culture and there are certain people that will not even, they will refuse to even the blood to be transfused onto them. So because of their own ethical principles, until they are able to give their consent. So bioethics and this. So ethical research in issues in drug testing. So there was a time that they came to Nigeria. One pharmaceutical company came to Nigeria and now use Nigeria as a guinea pig. They just went to the north without seeking uh, approval from the community. They just went there, they just administered them, they just asked them to come and collect certain drug, and they asked them to use it. So without normal procedure, it is unethical. The ethics of drug testing involve concern over the safety of participants and whether the benefit outweighs the risk, no matter how much. So don't tell them that you want to give them 3 million for participating in the research. No, you have to explain both the risk and it should not, the benefits should not be monetary. The benefits should not be such that the rights, autonomy of and that individual will be affected. So that's the reason why you should know that in ethical issues in drug testing, informed consent is very, very important. Placebo effect. Is it ethical to use placebo in clinical trials, especially when better treatment are available? So there are some that the vulnerable population, such as ensuring that at-risk group, these are vulnerable population. Number one, the children, the elderly, and the minorities are protected during drug testing. Research involving human subjects. Ethical guidelines for conducting research involving humans are very crucial to prevent exploitation and harm. So, and part of it is informed consent and privacy. You have to safeguard the confidentiality of the participants' data. You lock it under key. You have to protect it. You don't need to have the third party to have access to it unless they are the one that is disclosing that. So minimization of harm, ensuring that no unnecessary harm comes to participant physically or psychologically. For example, you will know one content creator sometimes that went ahead to ask a child to be talking about private parts in the public, touching that. All these you will see that the human rights, they just arrested and he wanted to charge him to court. So it's part of it was unethical. So you have to minimize harm. So like some of us, you are using some people for your research. So and you want to use their photograph, you have to seek their informed consent. You have to seek their approval that you want to post their face, or you want to post their pictures online. So you have to seek their approval. You have informed approval. It's not just anyhow. So ethical concern regarding the use even to animals in scientific research and experimentation. For example, some of us that want to use laboratory animals like rats, mouse for experiment, you have to remember 3R principles. Number one, replacement. Replacing animal use with alternative method when possible. Is it a must that you must use laboratory animal? If it is a must, you have to think about reduction. You reduce the number. You can't just say, okay, you go and buy 1,000 animals for research that you can even use 10 animals for. So reduction. Then refinement. Refine experimental procedure to minimize their suffering. So that is when, even if you want to kill the animal, you want to sacrifice the animal, there are ways of, we call it mercy killing. Mercy killing. You don't just slaughter them anyhow. It is unethical for us to just, you have the fact that you have a poultry does not mean that you just slaughter it anyhow. You so that is violation of the animal's right. So environmental bioethics, which is another one. So bioethics extend beyond medical research. Don't think it's only in medical or in medicine, to the environment, which address human responsibility towards the ecosystem. Environmental justice. You have to do justice to the environment. The ethical obligation to ensure that no environmental harm do not disappropriately affect marginalized community. So it is even illegal for you now for you to be producing releasing toxic waste to the environment, whereas you yourself, you have protected yourself or you are protecting yourself. It is a environmental injustice. Sustainable development, balancing scientific progress with environmental protection. So no matter what is going to be your research, you have to balance it up. You have to make sure that the environment is highly protected, and biodiversity protection, ethical responsibility in preserving species and natural ecosystem. Any research that you want to do and you are going to do, or whatsoever you want to do that is going to lead to the extinction of a species, you are preserving a species and you are endangering another species. It is against, it is unethical. It is against the rule of bioethics. So bioethics and public health. Ethical concern in public health research include balancing individual rights and collective rights. So your own right, you should not use it to undermine the right of another or the whole community. So that is the reason why that mandatory vaccination. Should government mandate vaccination for public health reasons? So it is not compulsory, it is not mandatory, it is violation. I remember when students, I remember when governments were saying that they would take vaccine to the school, and it is a must that all of them must be vaccinated. No, it is violation of their right. So mandatory violation, it is not mandatory. It is a matter of choice. They can decide to take vaccine or they might not take it. There are some people that up to today, they do not they did not take vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine up to today. Yellow fever, they do not take it. So it is not mandatory. So epidemiological research, ethical dilemmas when conducting research on infectious diseases, especially in vulnerable population. Health disparity, ensuring equal access to healthcare and preventing discrimination um in public health initiative. So it is unethical that there will be an hospital that is going to be made for the poor and one that is going to be made for the rich. It is against the WHO standard. It is unethical, so to say. So because it is going to promote, it's going to increase the health disparity. So you can see that even in Nigeria, we see a lot where people are already discriminating against people that are rich, are discriminating. They have access to certain treatments. So under normal circumstance, bioethical principles will make sure that there is equal access to healthcare. The healthcare access to healthcare to the by the poor is also the same to that of the rich. So ethical guidelines and coach. So as a bioethician or bioethics student, these are various code that you must know that are very, very relevant in this. We talk about the Nuremberg Code of 1947, which laid the foundation of ethical research guidelines, which ensuring the safety of human participants, and Declaration of Helsinki, that was 1964, which set ethical principles for medical research involving human, and the Beaumont Report of 1979, which outlined the ethical principles and guidelines for research involving human subjects. So if you want to use human samples for your research, this Beaumont report is as stipulated all the procedures that you must follow. So the institutional review board, we are not going to spend time on this. So because these are set of board, a kind of committee that will be in charge of reviewing. You have to submit your proposals to them. So they will now review whether your research is going to follow that ethical principle or not. If they do not grant your research and you go ahead to conduct that research, you will be held liable. So this is what we call institutional review board, and there are levels of that. So that's why I said we are going to see more of this conflict of interest in research. So there are certain conflict of interest can compromise the integrity of research finding and their interpretation. Financial conflict. Researcher with financial interest in the outcome of the, so you cannot just use money, your financial muscle to be able to outsmart your subject. So financial conflict, you have to declare it. Then transparency. Researchers should disclose any conflict of interest to ensure transparency. So you don't say part of the transparency should be that the way you conduct a research in your own area or your own locality is still going to be the standard elsewhere. So it's not going to be that because it's going to be in form of a sentiment, tribalistic sentiment, and so on like that. So maintaining objectivity. The goal is to ensure that research is conducted fairly without undue interference. So, and about technology, ethical issues in biotechnology, don't forget that biotechnology raises numerous ethical concerns related to genetic manipulation and the use of living organisms in research, especially in genetically modified organisms. So, should we alter the gene of crops and animal in order to improve our food production? Ethical concern regarding the use of biotechnology for environmental cleanup or bioengineering and so on. So the ethical consideration in stem cell. So stem cell research hold great promise for treating various diseases, but also raises ethical concern. For example, embryonic stem cells, therapeutic cloning and commercialization. I'm just paraphrasing this because we will have time to even study this in detail. So don't forget that this is bioethics, which I said is a professional course, which I told you that it has its own origin from the simplest philosophy that you should treat others the same way you want others to treat you. Okay, bioethics and global health. Bioethics is critical in shaping global health policies that affect vulnerable population. I've told you the vulnerable population are the elderly, the children, and the pregnant mothers. These are people that cannot take decision on their own. So they are regarded in bioethics as vulnerable populations. So the role of bioethics committee, I have said that they are in charge of reviewing research proposals in order to ensure that these studies involving humans, not only human and animals, are ethically conducted. So this committee are part of the IRB that we grant. They are the one that will grant whether your research should go on or not. They are the one that will grant approval. So if you just conduct research, just go to any community, collect their sample without due process. If they pass, if they and there's any problem, you are liable for imprisonment. Okay. So case study. So I told you about this case of the Tosji syphilis. So it's a notorious example of unethical medical research. So this research was conducted between 1932 and 1972, where over 600 African American men were studied without their knowledge of having syphilis. So they conducted that research for so many years about the black on blacks, and they did not know. So they just published the report. So that's why I said it was unfortunate, a notorious example of unethical, because you can see lack of informed consent. Participants were not told they had syphilis and were even denied treatment. You can see consequences. Many participants died, and it resulted in national outrage and reforms in human. So another case study is Henrietta Lacks. Hereditary large cells were taken without her consent and used to advance medical research, leading to the creation of HLA cell line. And although it was to the advancement of science, but her informed consent were not taken. Informed consent, hereditary life was never informed that her cell would be used for research. So it was unethical. Ownership of biological materials. Who owns cells and genetic materials once they are taken from an individual? So exploitation of minority group. Henrietta Lacks was a poor African American woman raising concern about the exploitation of the marginalized population. So bioethics in the context of emerging technologies. Now this is the era of artificial intelligence, nanotechnology and robotics in surgery. So all these are part of the um advancement in technology where bioethical issues must be addressed and the innovation. So is it right to actually human replace human being with artificial intelligence or with a robot? With a robot or with any other thing. All dis, so should AI system make decisions about medical treatment and what ethical guideline govern their use? So we are already looking for a way whereby or the future where it is the AI that will be conducting diagnosis as well as treatment. So should we in any way replace human with artificial intelligence or robots? Okay. So bioethics and public policy. Bioethics intersects. So don't say public policy is on its own and bioethics is on its own. No, bioethics is an integral part of the public policy, influencing creation of law and regulation that govern healthcare, biotechnology and research. So you will know that bioethics is not just standing alone, it's not just talking about science alone, it's talking about violation of human rights, fundamental human rights. It's talking about protection of human rights, autonomy, justice, equity, equality. All these are part of the bioethical issue. So topics to consider include healthcare legislation, regulating biotechnology, environmental policies. Then as scientific research become more complex, bioethics education is essential for students and professionals. That's one of the reasons why um bioethics should not be in those days. Bioethics was actually made for only medical students, but nowadays they have UNICEF has actually asked that bioethics be taught in public schools for students as well as professional. So curriculum integration including bioethics as a core component of science, medical and public health. So part of what we are doing today, part of the reason why microbiologists and biological students are still studying bioethics is part of how we must integrate curriculum with bioethical principles so as to be able to train our researchers and create ethical awareness. So by listening to these lectures is also an attempt to create medical awareness, raise our awareness about ethical issues, building ethical awareness in all stages of scientific discovery, from basic research to clinical application. So it's not only limited to medicine, it's not only limited to biotechnology, it's not only limited to environmental biology, it's not only limited to medical or pharmaceutical sciences. It is bioethics supposed to be taught everywhere by everybody to uh everybody. So bioethics in education and training. So bioethics and the law, the relationship between bioethics and the law shapes the practice of medicine and research. So as we can see, okay, controversial issues in bioethics. So we have said this, euthanasia and assisted suicide. Should individual have the right to end their own life under certain conditions? So don't take life of another person. When the Holy Book says, "Thou shalt not kill," it is part and practice of bioethics. That is, you should not take another person's life, and another person should not take your own life. You should not be protecting your life while you are violating the life or the right of another person. So, tenacious and assisted suicide, you cannot, no matter what, you cannot just in any way tell your any nurse or any medical personnel to administer poison instead of drug that will alleviate the patient's condition. So in you whether the person has a terminal illness or not, you must continue to treat the person. Then reproductive rights, ethical dilemmas surrounding abortion. So up till now, uh, abortion is still illegal. It's still illegal because we believe that that is also amounting to taking another's this. You cannot just say because the pregnancy cannot take decision on its own, you just go and you just go and just eliminate another person's life. Is it's unethical. Contraception, even people still believe that using of condom, using of contraceptive, all these are unethical because you are one way or the other trying. So these are controversies, part of controversies surrounding bioethics. So you can now see that in some countries abortion remain legal, contraception remain legal, and so on. Then surrogacy, the ethical and legal issue related to practice of surrogacy and the use of reproductive technologies. All these are issues that are raised, that raise ethical issues, okay? And all these are part of what should not be, because you don't have the right to create life. You should not have the right to take another person's life. So, summarily, what we are saying in essence is that bioethics is not only applicable in medical sciences, it's not only applicable in pharmaceutical sciences, it is applicable to all phases of life, not only in science. um the same way you protect your own life is the same way you must protect the environment, the same way you must protect the life of an animal. The food you cannot eat, ethically you should not give it to your animals, irrespective of what it is going to be. So having said this, I think we have come to a great point whereby I want to conclude my presentation for today. Once again, I want to appreciate you all for your listening attention. So please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you. See you in my